Hello, everybody. Thank you all for coming for the November 2022 session of the Storytelling for and by Adult series by Zoom. You know, the first 8 years of this series happened in a little cafe in Chennai, just with people walking into the cafe. But then 3 years ago, when the pandemic started, we shifted to Zoom, and it's been a little different, but also a little similar. All right, so the first storyteller tonight is Kala Sundaram from Singapore. Kala, thank you so much for joining us. Please introduce yourself fully, tell us about your work, and please tell us a story.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I've been associated with storytelling since 2006. I am a member of the Storytelling Association Singapore here. And what else? I take on projects in school. That's what I do. And now for my story, Kabuliwalah by Rabindranath Tagore. I'm sitting in my studio. I'm a writer. I wonder how I'll ever finish my book. I have a little daughter who's 5 years old, and every few minutes, she loves rushing into my study. She's a precocious little child, curious, and every now and then she'll rush in and say, Baba, you know, our doorkeeper calls crow, cock. He doesn't know anything. Before I can explain to her the different languages that people speak, she moves on to the next topic. You know, Baba, Bola, the gardener, says there are naughty elephants sitting above the clouds. They fill their trunks with water and spray it down on us, and that's the reason it rains. One day, as she's sitting in my study, there's a burly figure in loose garments with a sling over his shoulder walking by. She rushes to the window and calls out, Kabuliwalah, oh Kabuliwalah. Kabuliwalas are men from Kabul in Afghanistan who came to Calcutta to sell dry fruits and nuts to earn a living. He heard her. He smiled and turned and walked towards our gate. I thought it was discourteous not to buy anything after calling him, so I walked up to the gate. I bought some nuts and I wanted to dismiss him quickly, but I found myself having a conversation with him. And he was well versed with politics of the world. After I'd bought and he was about to leave, he asked me, where's your little girl, Koki? I called out to my daughter. She came running out, but hid behind me, holding on tightly to my knees and just peeked a little. She had this fear that the Kabuliwala had a few kids like her in his sack. I wanted her to get rid of that fear. He offered her some nuts and raisins. She did not take it. Thus began their first meeting. As time went by, days, weeks, and months, I noticed my little daughter Minnie wasn't coming into my study as much. I didn't think too much of it. One day, as I was going out, I saw her in the garden on the bench, and on the ground was the Kabuliwala. Both of them, she had found an intent listener other than her father. They had a few stock phrases, I realized, and they both laughed, a grown-up and a little kid. She would ask him, what's in the sack, Kabuliwala? And with a nasal twang, he would say, Auntie, an elephant. And they would get into peals of laughter. This friendship was blossoming. One day when I passed by, I noticed end of a loose garment were already stuffed with nuts and fruits. I passed him a silver coin, which he readily accepted, and I went my way. On returning, I noticed a huge ruckus in the house. Her mother, who did not have the same capacity to trust and love people, was very suspicious. She was asking the daughter, "Where did you get this coin from?" And my little Minnie in tears said, "The Kabuliwala gave it to me." I then realized he had passed the coin back to my little daughter. I came to her rescue and assured my wife that I will keep an eye on the Kabuliwala. But I did not have the heart to stop this innocent man, for no fault of his, from coming to our home. After many months, as the friendship grew, one day, it was a Sunday, I was sitting in my study. When I looked out of the window, there was a commotion. The Kabuliwala was being dragged by two policemen. His clothes were blood-stained, and he had a little knife in his hand. I rushed out to find out what it was. You see, it was the time when he went around collecting the money people owed him. One of the neighbors denied owing him any money, and he questioned his integrity. Rehmat, the Kabuliwala, got emotional. He pulled out the knife and tried to hurt him. He was badly injured. Being a threat to community, he was taken to prison, and I was told he was going to be in prison for 7 years. I'm ashamed to say Minnie forgot her friend and life went on. She made new friends. It was the day of the wedding, my Minnie's wedding. And now, one of the stock phrases between the Kabuliwala and my Minnie was, he would tell her, "Little girl, never go to your in-laws' house." Most girls knew what in-laws were right from their mother's womb. We were a little progressive and we didn't want to burden our daughter then. And the Kabuliwala would tell, "Never go." And that morning, Minnie rushed out and saw the Kabuliwala and asked him, "Are you going to your in-laws' place?" And he said, "Yes, I am." She was sad. She went back. Now, on the day of her wedding, there was soulful music playing. I was sad. The joy of my home was leaving my place. Just to distract myself, I went into the study. I was pouring the account when suddenly I noticed a figure near my door. I didn't recognize him at first. He was clean shaven, but then the smile, I did recognize him. I said, "Welcome back. When did you come back?" He said, "Last evening I was released from prison." Suddenly, the father in me thought, it's an inauspicious thing. Someone incarcerated at my home today. I told him, "Please leave. You cannot meet anyone today." He was hurt. He walked to the door and then turned around and said, "Can I meet the little girl?" I was hurt and said, "I told you, it's not possible. Leave." Speechless, he walked. I felt a little guilty. He turned around and came back. He did have, to honor their friendship, he had carried some nuts and grapes, which I'm sure he bought from a fellow Afghan. But please give it to her. I quickly pulled out my wallet and wanted to pay him and dismiss him off. He caught hold of my hands and said, I don't come here to do business. I have a little girl back home, just like Minnie. And he pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. It wasn't a photograph. It wasn't a painting. It was print of ink on a piece of paper. At that minute, tears welled up in my eyes. We were connected by humanity. Both of us were fathers. I turned around and called out to my little daughter. There were protests from inside from the elderly, but I didn't care. Minnie came in her bridal finery. The Kabuliwalah looked at her. He tried to revive their friendship, but he couldn't. She turned around and she left. I remembered their first meeting. At that point, he just collapsed on the floor and said, I may not recognize my own daughter now. I will have to renew my friendship. I pulled out a wad of notes from the wallet and gave it to him and said, go back, your daughter, meet her, and may the joy of meeting your daughter again bless my Minnie and all the children of the world. And my festivity that evening was all the more better, remembering that a father was reunited with his daughter.
Okay, thank you very much. So that is based on a short story by Rabindranath Tagore, is that correct?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. And you read that story many years ago?
Yes, I was a little girl and it stayed with me. I
Oh.
revisited the story and the story touched me because, especially in the Asian culture, a mother-daughter is always celebrated, but a father's love is not celebrated all that much. So this story really touched me.
So in the story, the young girl, she becomes friend with a visiting, the man is a money lender, I think?
Yeah, they are money lenders and they also sell fruits, dry fruits and nuts.
So she becomes friend with this traveling man, and but then he gets in trouble. He stabs the man and gets put in prison. And so then the story is about how when he comes out of prison, whether the girl and her family will reject him or whether they'll still, love him and try to help him.
Yes.
And at first the father sends him and the mother send him away, right?
Yeah, the father.
Yeah, but then they have second thoughts about it.
Yeah.
So what about the story touches you so much?
I think first time again I revisited it, I had tears. It's just missing my own father. It's the father-daughter relationship.
Well, the father of the girl, he's trying to be protective of her, right?
Yes, and also the Kabuliwalah, he has left his own daughter back in his town.
I see. So there are two sets of fathers and daughters.
Yes.
Anybody, any thoughts, comments, questions?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Kayla, you told that so well that I was so into your story. I thought it was happening to you until the end when you said father. It really felt like it was your story.
I chose to do it in the first person. I don't know why. I was more comfortable doing that.
It was well done.
Thanks, June.
that is a very good, June, that's a very good thing to think about when you tell a story. I have a problem now with the story I want to tell in first person, but I have to because I have to be a 5 years old boy. So it's not easy, but I thank you for your acceleration and the story of Kala. Thank you.
Okay. So really, it's about compassion. That people, the story is encouraging us to have compassion for people who have difficult circumstances. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, more on the filial love, I guess, because Kabuliwalah is a very famous short story in India, and I think everybody's read it at some point of time. And interestingly, I think there are so many adaptations to this particular story, and there are movies on it. There are different adaptations about this, but the original one, which Kala just told us, is beautiful. Like, it's more about filial love. That's what I get.
More about what kind of love?
Filial love from parents to kids.
Mm-hmm.
In this particular situation, it's from my father. I'm so sorry for the back throat. I was tested positive for COVID. So my throat and all and voice is not working. I'm so sorry about that. But
It's
yeah,
okay.
more than generally compassion for everybody, but this story specifically has the filial love as the universal theme, I guess.
Thank you. Okay. Does anyone want to add anything else, or shall we go on?
I'd just like to add that Kala, I really appreciated your pacing. It was really nice and smooth, and that I think it's a story about compassion, also about redemption, and it reminds us that these things aren't always cut and dried, that they're complicated, and they're not always easy choices, and I think it's something we all deal with.
Thanks, Barry.
I'm sorry, I wanted to add something. I think when you did a first person telling, I think it made more connection with me. It was more, I got more involved when you did it in first person. So that was a great choice, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I just want to add one thing, that I read the story, the original one, and it's really a very touchy story, and the way it was told, it's kept that flavor, the original flavor, and it's very really a touchy story. So it actually deals with the father-daughter relationship, and actually Kala's rightly mentioned that it is not much celebrated in Asian culture. So yes, that is why I am also very fond of this story.
Thanks, Ravan.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.